The plains of the Maasai Mara were never quiet. Wind whispered across the tall grass, hyenas cackled at night, and lions roared their dominance into the sky. In that vast and unforgiving world, a cub was born, small, sickly, barely holding on to life. His mother kept him close, fearful the winds of fate might take him back too soon. He was the last born among his litter, and though she licked him with warmth and love, the other cubs pushed him aside, stronger and faster. He was not destined to be the strongest, not yet. But there was always something different in his eyes, a spark that refused to fade. His pride had no idea what this cub would become, how he would change the stories told around campfires, how he would carry the weight of scars that would one day crown him king. The cub's name was not Scarface then. He was simply another lion, learning to walk, falling and rising again, chasing butterflies he could never catch. His brothers, Marani, hunter, and Sikio, grew tall and bold, roaring before their manes had even begun to form. They would tussle and fight all day, practicing for battles they didn't yet understand. He joined them, though clumsy and often late. But when he bit harder. When he chased longer. He didn't know how to give up, even when he lost. The first true pain of his life came when their father, the old king, fell. Outsiders invaded, a coalition of fierce males driven by hunger for power. The young cubs and lionesses fled into tall grass as their father was challenged. The battle shook the ground. Roars echoed like thunder. Blood painted the soil. And then silence. Their father, the giant who seemed undefeatable, never rose again. The young cub looked at the lifeless king and felt something break inside him. He didn't know what death meant, but he knew their world had changed forever. His mother led them far away, and for a long time they wandered, hungry, threatened, unrooted. The land no longer belonged to them. They were intruders everywhere they went. He learned fear, but fear never controlled him. It sharpened him. As he grew, life hardened him faster than his brothers. When hyenas surrounded them one night, he stood between them and his mother. Just a young lion, barely a teenager, yet roaring with everything he had. The hyenas laughed, cruel, mocking, but they did not dare rush him. Something wild burned in his single roar, something ancient and furious. His mother saw greatness in him then, a fire that could warm a pride, or burn the whole savannah. He and his brothers eventually claimed a territory of their own, small, dry, barely enough prey to survive. They hunted through hunger and patrolled through exhaustion. The young lion followed his brothers into battles, proving again and again that he belonged beside them.
Then came the day that would change his destiny. A pride of lionesses, strong, beautiful, and worth fighting for, stood guarded by another male. A beast of a lion, larger than any they had faced. To have a future, they needed to win. And so the brothers fought. Claws ripped through flesh. Roars tore the air apart. The sky darkened with dust. The young lion lunged toward the rival king, jaws wide, heart pounding. A single swipe came faster than he could blink, a blinding slash across his right eye. Pain. White-hot, unforgiving. Blood poured down his face. The world tilted, and then half of it went dark forever. He staggered, but he didn't fall. With a guttural roar, he attacked again, driven not by sight but by something deeper, something primal that refused to surrender. His brothers overwhelmed the rival lion in that moment of rage and chaos. The battle was won, but the damage was done. When he lifted his head again, his face was torn, his eyes sealed shut for life. The wound was jagged and raw, a mark no lion could ignore. From that day on, he was no longer just another lion. He was Scarface, and his story had only just begun. His new pride accepted him as king alongside his brothers. Scarface stood tall, though his right eye remained a painful, swollen reminder of the price of power. The hyenas whispered his name with caution. The plains observed him with awe. Even the vultures circling high above marked him differently. He was no longer merely alive. He was surviving. He loved his lionesses fiercely. He guarded the cubs like the future itself depended on them, because it did. Every day, he walked the boundaries of his territory. His limp became more noticeable over the years, but he dragged his heavy paws with pride. Every step said, "I am still here." His brothers were always near. Morani with his calm wisdom, Sikio with his sharp instincts, Hunter with his boldness. Together, they ruled for years longer than anyone expected. They chased off intruders, defended against desperate rivals, and protected their home through droughts and floods alike. Yet, age is the enemy no warrior can defeat. Scarface felt the passing years inside his bones first. The legs that once leapt fearlessly now trembled when he stood too long. His mane, once thick as a storm cloud, thinned and grayed. The open wound over his eye never fully healed. Flies tormented the exposed tissue. Many nights, his brothers hunted while he lay beneath the stars, breathing heavily, unable to rise. But when dawn came, even if he needed to force himself upright, he walked. He always walked. The land respected effort. The animals followed courage. Scarface's pride grew, cubs running circles around his massive paws, not caring that one eye could not see them. To them, he was perfect, a giant protector whose mere presence could scare away nightmares. If only protection were enough. Time took his brothers one by one. Sikio fell first, a fight gone wrong. Hunter disappeared after a bitter territorial clash. Morani, his closest companion, grew too weak and died under the same sun they once ruled. And then Scarface stood alone, the last king of his coalition. A monarch with one eye, one heart, and one purpose left: keep his family safe. As challengers began to rise, younger, quicker, with thicker manes and sharper claws, Scarface still roared, defiantly, painfully. The warriors who approached him saw not a week-old lion, but a legend. Many backed away, unwilling to take on the king who refused to fall. But even legends must face the truth. One night, the wind changed. The pride sensed it. Scarface rose, his joints stiff, his breath uneven. He looked back at the sleeping lionesses, his queens, his reason for fighting. He looked at the cubs who would never understand the battles he fought so they could play under the sun. Then he did something no one expected. He walked away, not in shame, not in defeat. A king doesn't die where his children can watch. He disappeared into the tall grass, alone, guided by instinct and the quiet call of the earth that had raised him. The sky that night held its breath. The moon followed him like a loyal witness. Scarface did not stop until he reached a quiet patch of land, far from lions, far from danger. A place where the grass swayed like a lullaby and the horizon glowed soft. He lay down beneath a small tree and looked up at the stars, familiar yet distant. His breath slowed. His heart, tired from years of roaring against fate, beat softer. He closed his good eye, and the plains lost their king. They say nature forgets, that the earth moves on quickly, that memories fade like paw prints in the rain. But some roars never die. The morning after Scarface's final journey, the wind changed. It curled around the Pride Lands, whispering through acacia trees and brushing the manes of lions who felt something missing, a silent alarm only hearts can hear. His lionesses awoke to a world quieter than before. The cubs searched for the familiar shadow that had always stood between them and danger. They didn't understand why the grass felt colder or why the distance seemed scarier. Lions from neighboring territories lifted their heads too, ears twitching. They did not hear a roar, but they felt its absence. Humans, those who had followed his life for years, stepped out of their vehicles not with cameras ready, but with tears gathering. Wildlife guides who had pointed at him proudly now spoke softly, sharing stories of the king with the broken eye who never backed down. They placed flowers in the grass near where he last laid, honoring the warrior who fought not for power, but for love. They remembered how Scarface limped toward threats twice his size, how he refused to attack the weak, how he chose peace when possible, how he stood guard even when his body begged him to rest. The lionesses eventually regrouped under a new male, such as life in the wild. Change is survival. Scarface would have wanted them safe, even if another now stood in his place. But the cubs, they grew up hearing his name whispered in the breeze. They carried bits of his courage in their bones. Some would become kings themselves, standing atop hills at dusk, manes swaying like flames, eyes burning with the same stubborn fire. One cub in particular, a young male with a small scar near his brow, would sometimes turn his head as if listening to something no one else could hear. And when rivals stepped too close, he roared first, a roar loud enough to shake dust from stones. The spirit of Scarface growled inside him. The legend continued. As the seasons changed, visitors still came searching for him. They looked for the one-eyed king long after his paw prints had faded into earth, not because they wanted a picture, not because they needed a trophy, but because Scarface had become something rare, an animal who made humans feel something deeper than awe. He made them feel respect. In the endless circle of nature, many lions are forgotten, their names swallowed by time, their bones left for the scavengers. But Scarface became a story, a symbol, a memory etched into the heart of Africa. When thunder rolls over the Maasai Mara, guides smile gently and say, "That is the roar of Scarface checking his kingdom." When cubs play in the golden grass, sometimes a shadow moves in the sunlight, heavy and proud. That is the king making sure they grow strong. And when the moon glows over the plains, lighting every blade of grass with silver fire, some swear they can see a great one-eyed lion walking the horizon alone, but never truly gone. Scarface's scars told his story: pain, survival, love, sacrifice. He showed the world that a king is not measured by perfection, but by how he rises after every fall. His life was not easy. His battles were not fair. His end was not dramatic. But his legacy? His legacy is eternal. Because Scarface did not fight to win. He fought to live. He fought to protect. He fought because his heart did not understand surrender. So when the wind howls across the savannah, and the grass bends low in reverence, and the stars shine brighter for a moment, that is Africa remembering her lion, her warrior, her king, Scarface, forever roaming, forever roaring, forever loved.